Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hey guys, this is Omar from Archery Ascension. I would like to start off with the timeless and universal greeting of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Our aim is to build a community that is actively engaged in the five sanctified martial arts. These are archery, horsemanship, wrestling, swimming, and running. We believe that these disciplines are directly related to developing a healthy human being in body, mind, and soul. In this series, we converse with individuals across the globe who are on similar journeys. Our guest today is Ramzi Nabulsi of Wellspring Dojo, all the way from Amman, Jordan. We go deep in our conversation about the transformative power of martial arts, the difference between martial arts practice and fighting, deep breathing, mindfulness, and the impact that this can have on raising the next generation. Ramzi has an extensive background in Tai Chi, Kung Fu, and BJJ. He has students both locally and abroad and runs an online program at Wellspring Dojo. We hope you enjoy our conversation.
How are the animals going?
The animals are going well. During the quarantine, so we've had alhamdulillah a lot more time to spend with them, and so with Bayaz and Satika, we've been able to just work on their training a bit and spend a bit more time with them under saddle and on the ground, and so it's been really good in that sense. There are some new goats on the land. There's some dairy goats. So every morning or just before iftar, somebody goes and milks the goats, and we've tried making yogurt and ice cream and things like that. So it's been
ice cream.
Yeah. It's been really, really nice. Alhamdulillah. Things are going well.
Great.
Yeah. So I guess we can start straight away, inshallah.
Yeah, sure.
I spoke to you a little bit online just about what we wanted to do here through Archery Ascension. We wanted to start a little bit of a podcast where we interview people that are engaged in some of the traditional martial arts, and just find out a little bit about why people are doing it, and particularly with the focus on the benefits that these arts have for youth and children. And I know that you've recently started an online course. So can you tell us just a little bit about yourself and how your journey started and what your background and history is?
Well, my journey started at a very young age. I remember I have this memory when I was about 4 years old, standing on top of a huge pile of dirt that I was shoveling for my dad. And I was inspired by the movie The Karate Kid. Everyone's probably familiar with The Karate Kid, the original Karate Kid. So I was like, we're going to be strong like the Karate Kid. I didn't even know the character's name, Daniel.
Yeah.
So it's when you're a child, you don't know anything. So I was really in love with the idea of martial arts. It goes beyond fighting. It's there's something about good versus evil that appeals to kids when you're young like that. So I don't think there was a time that I ever wasn't into it. But in terms of my actual training, I kind of dabbled a little bit as a child, but in the end, you only do what's available to you. Yeah. So it was only when I was about 19 that I had a little bit of money and a little bit of freedom to kind of get around, and I found a kung fu school that I really liked, like a praying mantis kung fu school.
Nice.
And I got right into that. I got really devoted and trained really hard, and did fairly well in that time.
Nice.
So that's where it really started, in terms of proper training.
Yeah. So there was always some sort of interest within you, from early childhood. You were really inspired, and then once you grew up and you had a bit more independence and you go out and do your own thing, that's when you started. And you started learning Kung Fu from a praying mantis school.
That's right.
Yeah. And how long did you do that for?
I did about 3 years solid, and then I got married, and so I was studying full time, married, and working part time. So unfortunately, training had to go into the bottom of the list, which was like probably the worst time of my life in terms of not being able to train. Everything else was great, and first year of marriage, I also had my first child, so it was a lot on my plate at the time.
Yeah. How old were you? How old were you when you got married?
I was 21.
21. Fair enough. MashaAllah. Subhanallah. I got married when I was 22.
Oh, there you go. Okay. See what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And I was just thinking, your first child, is that Asia?
That's right, yeah.
That's right. So my first daughter's name is Asia as well.
Oh, mashallah.
Asia Medina. So,
oh, wow.
I was like, there's lots of similarities in this story. Alhamdulillah.
Awesome.
That's awesome. And then, have you dabbled in different types of martial arts since then?
Yeah, so what happened after that is that I went overseas to study. I went to Jordan to study Arabic, and I spent some time in Yemen as well. And when I returned, that's when I kind of got back into the martial arts. And I decided I wanted to explore other things. At that point, mixed martial arts was becoming more popular. Yeah. Jujitsu was on the scene, and it was something that I was interested in. And I think at the time I was like, I wanted to do kendo or jiu-jitsu, and I decided jiu-jitsu is a more practical thing to learn. No one walks around with swords. As much as I'd love to do some sword play, but so I chose jiu-jitsu, and I thought I'll do like 6 months of jiu-jitsu. Yeah, that should be enough to kind of keep me safe from the ground game. Yeah, and you realize you get hooked and you get pulled in, and you're like, 6 months is nothing. You're barely getting a taste, and it's so fun. Like you just fall in love with it. There's like a bug that everyone gets, the jiu-jitsu bug. So I got right into it. So at the start, you were like, it'll be a 6 month thing, and now it's turned into like a lifetime thing. Yeah, it's definitely become a major part of my life. Like I would think that would be very sad if that was not part of my life. It would be kind of something major missing from my, what gets me up in the morning. Yeah, there'd be an emptiness. Yeah, exactly. So I went into jiu-jitsu hard, and then I started exploring other things as well, because I didn't want to leave the kung fu aspect. I still liked the stand-up, the striking, and so on. Yeah. And that's when I also got into Tai Chi Chuan. Yeah. So it's not most people don't think of Tai Chi as like a fighting art, but I found a rather unique teacher who was very powerful. Sure. And so I wanted to get hold of that. So between and this teacher is in Jordan? No, at the time he was in Thailand. Okay. So yeah, he was an Australian expat who was living in Thailand and had been there for a long time. So I was flying from Jordan to Thailand twice a year to train with him. Yeah. For a month at a time, just like full-time training in Tai Chi. Wow. And then how long would you, so you fly twice, you stay 4 weeks with him, and then you'd come back home. And did you have anyone to train with when you were in Jordan? Not in Tai Chi. Okay. So I found a Jiu-Jitsu school here, and I found a really great teacher here and a great club to work with. So I was training in Jiu-Jitsu. With my Tai Chi training, a lot of it is solo kind of drills. It's not, there is partner work involved, but that wasn't as necessary as the solo work. Yeah. And I even got in the habit of actually paying teenagers who just needed like a bit of extra money to be like training partners for me, and that helped a lot. I made massive amounts of progress by just having someone to work with, having another body to work with. Just like having a mirror almost, Yeah, like the thing about in Tai Chi, they say like the best training dummy, like in terms of like you talk about Wing Chun and they have the wooden dummy, or in boxing you have like the punching bag or the speed bag. Then Tai Chi, it's all about having another nervous system to deal with.
Okay.
And that you can't replicate another human being. Nothing replicates a human being like a human being.
Like a human.
So so there was a lot of benefit from having that other kind of alive touch to work with.
Can I ask why is that so important?
Why is it important? Because the Tai Chi method is about dealing with another nervous system. It's about your own, like, knowing yourself, really understanding how to work with yourself, and to take it deeper, it's about getting the self out of the picture, because Tai Chi is about capturing the power of gravity. Gravity is always it's a constant energy. Being able to become like a conduit for that power, and so it meets the earth. And then there's a rebound effect. If I was to summarize what Tai Chi is about. So when you learn how to kind of disappear, you become like a conduit that's not in the way anymore. You start to have that kind of connection, the gravity-earth connection. Oh. So having another human being to work with, now you can find, when you get rid of the errors of your own body, you can find the errors in someone else's body.
And there's like instant feedback almost.
Exactly. There's complete, you become very aware, because it's like one of the Tai Chi quotes is, I can't beat a wooden man or an iron man, but I can beat any man.
Wow.
One of the Tai Chi masters. So it's not about fighting inanimate objects.
Yeah.
It's about dealing with another body.
With another body, and like the reality of like something that's organic and living, and that's there.
Yeah, something that has tension, because Tai Chi is about removing all tension.
Wow.
When you try and get rid of all the tension, that's why there's so much therapeutic benefits of the practice of Tai Chi. So it became popular for that, but the original art was about the martial aspect. But people had such success with the side effects, and the side effects being releasing of tension and a bit of blood flow and health and all those things. That's what made it so popular.
So increasing people's well-being overall and the way they felt about themselves. And then like in the modern world, that's taken more application over the martial aspect of it.
For sure. Exactly. It's completely, everyone, when you say Tai Chi, they think, that's some practice that you do in the park, and it's really relaxing. And look, the reality is 99% of Tai Chi has become that. It's completely non-martial. And any kind of, even if you look on YouTube, you'll be, it's very hard to find anything that looks like a practical fighting method from Tai Chi. Which is just one of the realities of what's happened.
Wow. Well, I was just thinking on that, for you, is there a difference in your mind in terms of martial arts and just say like a fighting sport?
Here's the thing. I think that the fighting sports, the martial arts that have a fighting aspect, whether it's some sort of competition or some sort of sparring, some sort of combat, they produce the best fighters. If your martial art doesn't have you at some point deal with that kind of conflict, you're probably going to be completely ineffectual in a real fight. So the idea that sports fighting is not true martial arts, from a practical manner, no, I completely disagree with that. If I was, if I had to pick a champion to fight on behalf of my life, and I had the choice between the guy that does martial arts but he doesn't fight, he doesn't do any kind of sparring, and the kickboxer, the prize fighting kickboxer, I choose the kickboxer. I know that he's been there. He sure, okay, he doesn't train eye pokes and groin strikes, but if he'd be much more efficient at doing that than the person who only trains those things, because his understanding of distance and his understanding of timing and so on. So I don't really buy into the idea that sport fighting is not martial arts. I think it's just sure that you can talk about, what's the honorable fight and your intention behind fighting, but that's a different topic. It seems like, is it martial arts? For sure, it's martial arts, and the people that fight are the best fighters. So if you're a judoka, you're a judo player, you're probably going to be a reasonable fighter because they fight. If you're karate, if you're like Kyokushin karate, they spar all the time. Muay Thai fighters, these guys, kickboxers, boxing, Western boxing, they're all great fighters because they actually have combat as part of their training.
Yeah.
As opposed to just forms or just
just in theory. Well, I guess that also comes back to what you're saying in terms of like Tai Chi and being able to fight an iron body versus like a real man or a human. Fair enough.
Yeah, one of the great masters in Tai Chi in Tai Chi history, his nickname was 8 fights a day man.
8 fights a day, man.
He was just fighting all the time. Like he was an incredibly violent personality. So it's not what you kind of connect to Tai Chi. He was a very violent and proficient Tai Chi fighter, and he could retain very few students because he was just too violent. He just hurt too many people.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm not saying you need to be like that, but like saying that if you want to be good at fighting, you have to fight.
You have to fight. Fair enough. Is martial arts purely just about being able to fight?
Here's a great question. So, because people talk about, well, there's the external fighting, external martial arts. I think, you're an archer, so there's a concept of that's a martial art.
Yeah.
There's something about combat involved, regards in someone who rides a horse. Even horse riding is a martial art in a way.
That's right.
But there's the inner aspect of martial arts. Yes, conquering. We see like the spiritual people. They're aware of the spiritual aspect of martial arts, which is conquering yourself, conquering your fears, conquering your temper. That when someone learns how to fight, they rarely do. They are not kind of afraid because
they have that edginess to them.
It's people who are afraid or insecure that get involved in fights because they feel they have to prove something. But when someone just the energy of someone who is comfortable with fighting, if they've been in that kind of situation, and they get confronted, they're so chill. Yeah, they know the reality of what's going to happen. So like they're not up out of their seat ready to, hopefully, if they've had good training, they're less likely to be aggravated and enticed into a combat situation.
Yeah. So they have, would it be insight or?
Yeah, I think it's like a wisdom. I mean, again, hopefully, like with the right training, and we can talk about modern martial arts as opposed to traditional martial arts, and that's part of an issue that's there. But I like to talk about refer to martial arts much like a firefighter. Yeah, a firefighter, he doesn't love fire. I hope not. Yeah.
So something else.
That's something else. Yeah, he's now something else. But a firefighter doesn't love fire. He wants to put the fires out. Yeah. So I would say that a martial artist who's from a good tradition should have the same kind of sentiment that they don't love fighting, but they know how to de-escalate a fight. And if it does happen, they know how to bring it down. They're not looking to start fires everywhere. Yeah, and that's an aspect that I think is missing from modern martial arts.
Modern martial arts. Can you tell us a bit more, because you mentioned it quite briefly just then, about there's a difference now between like the traditional martial arts school and the modern martial arts schools. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Right. So in traditional martial arts, if you go into any kind of karate school or kung fu school, or so on, they always emphasize some sort of virtues. They'll talk about virtues, things like honor and integrity and honesty and compassion, and these things. And they make a big deal of it. Now, sometimes, how true they are to their virtues is something else. But like, it'll be somewhere on the wall. You might have to memorize it as a student. It'll be constantly referred to. And in traditional martial arts, the teachers used to be very picky about who they take on as a student.
Yeah. Because,
they're about to give you some very dangerous knowledge. So they in Kung Fu, and I imagine, I'm not too familiar with what the karate system is like and Japanese systems are like, but there was an idea that you don't teach anybody. You only teach people who are upright in character and so on.
Yeah.
So if a thug walks into your school and is like, I want to learn how to beat up people, you show them the door. You go, this is not the attitude.
Yeah.
I can't give you these weapons.
Yeah, because then it goes from the martial arts to the dark arts.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like misuse of very, very harmful knowledge. From what goes from useful knowledge or beneficial knowledge to harmful knowledge. And we see that, and that's what's happening now, where you hear about such and such MMA fighter or such and such boxer or something like, who's situations of domestic violence, or someone's starting fights outside in like some nightclub or something like that. It's like, so these are guys that trained fighters, and they're beating people up
because they've learned the martial aspect in terms of the techniques and whatnot, but they haven't really learned the art aspect in terms of what happens in here.
Exactly. Yeah, they don't have that nurturing. They don't have the guidance in terms of how to behave, how to become a better human being.
Yeah. And do you think...
This is like... go ahead, sir.
No, keep going, sorry.
I was just going to say, like, for instance, a martial art like Aikido, which I would say is, from what I've observed, is very ineffective as a martial art. However, there's a huge emphasis on spiritual development.
Yeah.
So that kind of that aspect is what's missing, I think, in a lot of modern schools of MMA and kickboxing and things. There's not enough nurturing from the teacher, and which it does happen, but it's less. Now it's a case of you can have people showing up to class and learning very dangerous techniques, but the inner development's not there.
The inner development's not there. Like, it's not. And I guess with that, there's probably people who there's not as many qualified people now to learn, like, to teach.
It really depends on where you go. So I think you have to be do your investigation and do your homework. When you send your children to a school, you really need to familiarize yourself with what are the instructors like, what's the vibe and energy like at the school.
Yeah.
What are these people? What kind of people are being attracted to the school?
Yeah.
A lot of schools like to say, "Oh, we're like a family," and whatever else. But it doesn't take you long before you can feel, am I comfortable here? Am I not? Is it a safe place? Are these good people? Are these thugs? Which can happen.
Wow. And I think that's a little bit of a segue to talk about. You've started up your own school.
Yeah. So I believe over 6 years ago, I started a school. I live in Amman, Jordan.
Yep.
And so I live in a community of expats, people from all over the world. And one of my neighbors said, "Look, can you? You've been doing Jiu-Jitsu for however long. Why don't you set up a school for our kids? We've got all these kids here." And initially I wasn't very keen, because I had been teaching adults on and off for a few years at that point, and I was like. And I was kind of giving up on teaching, because there was like a major consistency issue.
The adults weren't consistent.
they kind of show up one week and go on the next. And so, but I started the school. I started in this room here, which is like my living room. It's not that big. It's about 6 meters by 4 meters. And bang, like my class was full. And we started. And
so there was a big difference between the adults and...
Huge difference, because kids, they generally, like when you sign them up for something, that's it. There's no, I don't feel like it, I'm not going to... You know, parents want their kids to learn and to, so there's no missing class. So for the most part, they were rather consistent, and I could actually get some progress going. It was going really well. So shortly after, I was able to get enough students to move to a dedicated space. I rented another space, and which was larger, and alhamdulillah, I went from one class to another group, so I ended up having at the moment 4 different age groups training, from like ages of 5 up to about 16 now.
That's awesome. And are you training the children in what you've trained in, so Tai Chi and Jiu-Jitsu, or how does your school work, and what's the program like?
So no, the emphasis is Jiu-Jitsu.
Yep.
The thing about Jiu-Jitsu is that it's like wrestling. It's similar to wrestling with submissions and things. Kids love rough and tumble play.
Yeah.
Tai Chi, it takes a huge amount of maturity and so on to get into, and it's like eating an old cheese or something. Like, you need a very refined taste to get into it. And so with kids, it's like they're not going to go for it. The Jiu-Jitsu, they get right into it. You don't need, day one, they don't need to know anything. I can just give me any child and I'll start wrestling with him. Yeah. And he's going to have the time of his life.
And he's going to enjoy it.
Yeah. So it doesn't take long for kids to get into Jiu-Jitsu like a bit. And it's a very natural thing for kids to get into. Where, as opposed to, I think striking is, it's much harder for children. I don't think it's necessarily healthy for children to get into. Due to brain impact to the head and so on. And they don't like hitting each other generally. It's not, it hurts, and you don't like seeing someone else get hurt. And, whereas Jiu-Jitsu is a type of martial art where you can go pretty hard and no one gets hurt most of the time. There's the injury rate is very low, and everyone can have a great time, and no one walks away generally. There's very rarely you walk away with a black eye or anything kind of damaged.
Wow. And would you consider your school like a bit more of a traditional school or a bit more of a modern?
Yeah, I've tried to preserve a lot of the traditional aspects of because I grew up in that kung fu kind of upbringing it was very traditional. So I have when we start class, everyone's kind of lined up in rows, formally sitting. I like the school itself is more of a traditional setup. We start with a dua, and we start with a fatiha, and so there are some formalities that I've tried to preserve, a little bit from the Japanese culture as well.
Yeah,
which I like all these things because it gets you into the mindset of, okay, I'm here now. I'm going to be present of mind. I'm going to make my intentions, and then and make your intentions for something to become for the akhirah. This is not just for this world.
And I guess in doing that, what sort of changes do you notice in your students at your school, say over time?
There's a lot of changes that take place in a lot of the kids. They become very confident with themselves.
Yeah,
and not in a cocky kind of mentality. Like, they generally, the better they get, and the more skilled they get, the more comfortable they are with themselves, and they approach things with they have like a higher integrity and a belief in themselves. So they're not easily pushed. They don't become pushovers, and they approach things with confidence. So they're better learners. They don't get bullied easily. And they can take a loss when they don't succeed. They don't fall apart.
Yeah,
they can get back on the horse as much.
Yeah, which is amazing that you were saying that, because as you're saying that, I was just thinking there's this brother I know in Melbourne who breeds Arabian horses, and he has, I think, like 5 children or something, and his whole family's into it now. And I asked him, when do you put your children on horses? And he says before they can walk, right?
Oh, wow.
But like, I think his oldest son, his name is Bassam, he's about 12 or 13 now. He's just one of the most mature, just like confident young boys that I've seen, especially like in this age, and just very very grounded, right? And like, as you're saying that, I'm just like, wow. I think there's something in these arts that I guess like our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would have said to get our children to do this, because I think it does affect them on a very deep and profound level, like compared with children that don't engage in these arts.
Yeah, I think the children need to be exposed to failure.
Yeah,
from an early age, and not failure in like in a devastating manner, but like we're so focused on success that we have to understand that failure and success are tied together, and that the more we fail, the better we become. Like every failure is actually a success, if you approach it correctly.
Yeah,
and that's one of the things that comes out of jiu-jitsu, because there's constant adversity. The consequence of losing is zero, other than having your ego bruised.
Yeah.
But so that's what there's a lot of. So that's why a lot of people talk about jiu-jitsu in terms of spiritual kind of practice in that, because your ego takes a massive beating.
And there are lessons in that.
Exactly. You're eating a lot of humble pie, especially at the beginning of your journey. You're losing to people smaller than you, lighter than you, weaker than you, and like if they know more, you're like way behind. So you have to kind of learn how to take things on the chin, and keep coming back, keep learning more, and then developing that skill to come back and fight again. So I think that aspect is a big part of their upbringing. Once a child goes through that lesson, that goes into that permeates into the rest of their life.
Would you think that's another reason why adults were a bit more inconsistent with your classes? Because it is a bit of like, it's a bit harder on the nafs or ego, so to speak.
Possibly, yeah. That could be part of it. I think adults they're easier to teach technique.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they have more. There's more pushback in terms of how they start to tell you how they'd like the class to run.
Yeah.
Things like that. It's like,
the cup's full.
Yeah. They're like, I've done this. Can we do something else? It's like, no, you're doing. This is what you're doing.
Yeah.
So things like that is like that kind of pushback. But kids is none of that. They just, if they say to me, very quickly my students learn. If they say to me, Sidi, I'm done, I'll be like, they learn quickly. There's no such thing as I'm done. It's just you keep going on repeat until I say we're doing something else.
Yeah.
And so I don't hear that phrase very often unless you're new.
Wow. Fair enough. Unless you're new. Fair enough. And I think recently you've started an online program as well.
Yeah. So obviously things have been shut down everywhere. So I was sitting at home. I'm like, okay, what do I do now?
Yeah.
So I studied video and film, and that's my vocation. So I've been actually helping people for years with producing their online courses and things. So I thought I'll just let me film an online course for Jiu-Jitsu. And so I produced a course, and through some help, I was able to launch a course and get it online and reach out to people. So I've had a full class sign up, and we're at this stage just over almost 3 weeks into the course, and it's going really well.
Wow, that's really good to hear. And are you looking at continuing the online program?
Yeah, so I'm now I've produced, the course is 1 month, so I already started producing the second month, and I have students overseas that had been training with me here, and now they've gone back to their countries. So I'm producing other things so that they can continue their training through online tuition.
Yeah. And where do people go if they want to find your school or learn a bit more about your process?
So the school, the course page is at courses.wellspringdojo.com. That's where you can find the courses.
Nice.
I don't have an official website just yet. We're still quite new in terms of the online.
The online aspect. Yeah.
With my school on the ground, I never really needed to advertise or anything like that. So it's always been word of mouth, and alhamdulillah, we've been successful that way. But the online aspect is quite new.
It's quite new. And I guess this has been the perfect situation, I guess, to bring it out.
Yeah, it's turned a crisis into an opportunity. So I've been able to reach out to more kids and really get more kids engaged, because what was interesting, a lot of kids out there, they wanted to do jiu-jitsu, but there's aspects like there is no school nearby.
Yeah.
Other aspects like they weren't comfortable with the school that was close by. There's issues that it's a mixed class, or there's other things going on that the parents were not comfortable with. So it's been a great opportunity for these kids to actually start training. And what's been amazing, I've been training myself via online for at least a year and a half now.
Yeah.
In terms of Jiu-Jitsu. So like most of my knowledge base now has actually come through video instruction. I've been purchasing instructional materials and studying it myself, and so I knew that online works. Like in terms of online study, it's like, this definitely works. Most of my game now is developed by self-study. I wasn't sure how it would go with the kids, but the great thing is I'm watching, like, because they send me footage, and I have like online, I have like live classes, and I watch these kids. Like, man, they're moving great. They're getting it. It's happening. It puts a big smile on my face to see that happening, and they're able to acquire this skill even so remotely.
Wow, that's awesome. That's really awesome. I know, well, for me, it's almost Suhoor time.
Okay,
so, I might have to go soon and get some food before Fajr comes in. I'm just trying to think, what would your vision be in terms of like for the youth and for children engaging in?
My vision, if you ever read the book Smith Family Robinson, so it's a classic book about this family that's kind of shipwrecked on an island and so on. There's a quote, unfortunately I haven't memorized it, I should, but the father is speaking to his son, and he's essentially saying that he's talking to his boys and telling them, I want you to be strong enough to do what is morally right. I want you to be strong enough to provide for your family, and I want you to be strong enough to fight evil and fight when necessary. Yeah. So the idea of producing morally upright children who are capable, that they can work and they can hunt, and like in a traditional sense, they can work and hunt and take care of their family and protect their families. So for me, that's the core of martial arts for me. That's when you're raising a student, and that's what motivates myself. That I want to be a capable human being and someone who's in service of others. Yeah. So I want my students, boys and girls, that when they grow up, that they are also capable human beings, that they are productive, they are people of industry, that they are physically healthy and morally upright. And if it comes down to it, they're ready. That's my vision.
So you see that like teaching this particular form of martial art is almost integral to creating like a holistic human,
absolutely,
or a holistic adult.
Yeah, absolutely. I think to quote other teachers I've had, that there are things that we consider necessary for our children, whether it's like pursuit of sacred knowledge, whether it's pursuit of you have to do your academics, your maths, your English, your language development, and these things to be a functional human being. But I think people they're missing out on the martial aspect, and that I think martial training, regardless what it is, whether it's Jujitsu or boxing or Kung Fu, or whatever you're into, you need something that can prepare you as a human being, that for when there is a physical conflict, you're ready. We hopefully we hope our children will grow up and get married and have children. So you need to be a protector of your flock, those that you're responsible for. If you're a man or a woman, you got to protect those that you love. And that having that knowledge, it completely changes the way you walk around, and the way you carry yourself. The way you carry yourself, there'll be a calmness, a confidence. And I think that's one of the big things that I've noticed as well, is that especially like the more kids get into technology, or even just people in general, like university students, everyone, like the less comfortable people are in their own bodies, so to speak, because we spend a lot of time up here, or a lot of time like here, like with our emotions, but not a lot of time just together. Yeah.
And like my own personal thing with martial arts is I find like it, in a way, forces me to be like in myself, or in my body.
Definitely. You'll never be so present of mind and body. It's the presence of mind and body when you're in that combat situation. There is no distraction. You're right there. You're completely intimate, being one with the present time. There is no before and after thoughts. It's like it's happening now. You're right there. And I think that's a huge part that people are addicted to, or not, that they find rewarding.
That they in engaging in practice. And I guess the more you do it in this particular area, the more it translates to everywhere else in your life.
Absolutely.
Right. I've been doing this online, speaking of online courses, I've been doing this online archery course.
Oh, wow.
And the instructor, he was saying that your shot process is very related to your speech and your thought process. And so he was talking about just your speech patterns and your patterns in your shooting. And I thought that was really amazing, that because he's a world-class, like from the Western world anyway, a world-class instructor and a world-class shooter. But I thought that was fascinating, because I remember just listening to a story about Umar radiallahu anh, how you line up people after Fajr and get them to shoot. And then when people would miss the target, or the arrows would be off, he'd go and question them. And then sometimes, because they're in the presence of the leader, they'd start stuttering. And he'd say, I don't know what's worse, your shooting or your grammar. And I just thought that, it's just amazing that, there's this 21st century contemporary archers saying the same thing, and we have that in our tradition. And not only that, we have that, like Imam Bukhari would never miss the bullseye, and Imam Shafi could write his name. And so, like, there's so much more than just, I guess, like just fighting someone or just punching an arrow or just riding a horse. It really is something that I think impacts people, or when done with the right mindset. So when done with this, like taken as an art form, can really, really transform or just help people be, I guess, draw out the best or most holistic parts of who we are.
Yeah, the pursuit of excellence is huge transformation, and how you approach it, your inner conversations, and or hopefully eventually the lack of conversations. That's something else I'm hopefully going to produce a little series on there was a book called The Inner Game of Tennis. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. It's an excellent book by Timothy Gallwey. That he talks about the internal aspects of playing tennis, but it kind of applies to any kind of skill that you're trying to pursue. So I was hopefully going to produce something that will kind of a lot of it will be drawn on that, but also from an Islamic perspective as well.
So that you can draw inward lessons from these outward forms.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The way that you approach any type of learning, any pursuit of a skill, getting rid of the negative self-talk, like that, and even positive self-talk can become a problem. It can become a barrier.
Becoming your own hype.
Yeah. It's learning to become truly just neutral, just truly observe what's going on, and just observe things as that doesn't involve without you having to be involved. So it's not about that was really bad, or that's so awesome. Like I'm so good. Instead of saying I'm so bad and I'm so good. They're both in error, because there's the I am. It's like forget I am, and just observe what happened.
Wow.
So I've been playing with that. Like I have a dartboard here. Unfortunately, I can't do archery in Jordan.
Yeah.
But I have a dartboard, so I've been using a lot of what you taught me, and I just throw the dart and just observe, and it's just like, okay, correct, incorrect.
Wow.
Don't have to make it an emotional connection. You don't have to be like, I really suck today. No, it's just observe, and then like sometimes I'll hit a bullseye. I'm like, oh wow, that's beautiful.
Wow.
I'm not beautiful. It's not me. It's just like, just look at that beautiful thing. Look at that grouping. Observe the beautiful grouping. 1, 2, 3. They're all in a row.
That's amazing.
What a beautiful thing.
That's amazing.
So,
that's amazing. And I think that's a whole conversation. I think that we can go into, like, about that. Maybe we should do that. We should do that again.
Yeah, let's do it.
Inshallah, I'd love to. I think I've almost come to the end of my time.
Yeah,
I wish we could keep going. I was just thinking I should have said after Suhoor, because then we could have kept going.
Part 2.
That's it. I don't know about you, but I really enjoyed this.
Oh, definitely.
Really enjoyed this. Inshallah, we can keep it happening. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for inviting me. Thanks for having me.
No, inshallah, it was our pleasure. And when I put this up, I'll make sure to include like the links to your courses, and if there's any videos, anything you'd like me to share, send it through. And hopefully it's the first of many, and all the best to you and your family and your students. And inshallah, we'll see bright up and coming adults and better human beings in a few years, or even now. I mean, all right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thanks.